All right. So we had an implementation that a bunch of smart people at Bitfinex were looking at, and a bunch of smart people at BitGo were looking at, and what a bunch of smart people around the internet were fully aware of, on how it worked and what was going on. The reality is that, um, we were basically running a system that relied on 2 out of 3 multi-sig keys being online and being governed by uh, by by a rule set that didn't necessarily have human oversight. And that was the fundamental weakness in all of the uh, whiz bang things that we were doing, and the real time kind of proof of reserves and the transparency and the anti AML stuff, and look, you can see your coins on the blockchain and all that stuff. In all of that, no one, firstly ourselves, but no one at BitGo, and no one in the rest of the internet, frankly, and other experts looking at this, no one no one sort of saw the fundamental flaw was that that is there's a so there it's not, multi-sig is not cold storage. Okay. So and that was our fundamental flaw, because at the end of the day you have to assume that your security is going to get compromised at times. It's going to happen. Every exchange has had security issues, people in there. The question is whether or not how much damage can they do.
So how
And
many? So you make this massive change to go over to BitGo to handle all of the customer Bitcoins. And how many consultants did you pay to audit and look over this?
Yeah, before you get into the consultant thing, I want to say, so I've always got the impression that this BitGo implementation, and I don't agree with the appeal to authority that everyone thought it was fine, because it in hindsight it obviously doesn't seem fine, and I don't know if I would have agreed at the time, but I don't know, I didn't review it. But and then also it seems like it was sort of like a hack to get around the CFTC rule. Like it was a reaction, it was a response, and it was a custom implementation of BitGo. It seemed like it was designed and set up to get around the CFTC regulation, as opposed to saying,
only for a tiny subset of people that we implemented a custom configuration for in the US. That only held
So
75
how
Bitcoins.
so how many consultants did you pay to audit this massive change to go against the industry standard of cold storage for customer funds to going all into BitGo?
We obviously had people internally working on it and people at BitGo working on it. I mean, consultants, we did not pay any. I mean, well, all of our employees and many in some way are consultants, I guess, but I don't understand the question.
But the contractors, right?
Well, long-term contractors, yeah.
Yeah, but so why not get a actual third party? So not one who's directly like a Bitfinex employee
You
and
know
not a
what?
big.
Swap, you're right. In retrospect, we should have had a third party. We had a third party. It was called BitGo, That's the whole point of using
Oh,
them.
that's the second party.
Well, I mean, it's in terms of not me, somebody else, third party in the colloquial sense. Um, so, the idea was that, yeah, you're right. So we should have. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that there. I mean, and the thing is that yeah, we can say yeah, you guys did great. I'm just cleaning up the spilled milk once it was done, but the level of fail in the hack being able to even happen, uh, it just indicates that there's some kind of bigger problem that just hasn't been addressed, some kind of personnel
I
problem,
know
something. I don't know.
I've heard this narrative from you many times. And I think that it's very clear. The issue is that we tried to do something new and different, okay, that we were largely praised for in the process. It turned out that it had a vulnerability that was exploitable. And so the solution is that at the end of the day, you really you cannot multi-sig is not a solution for cold storage. That is the lesson learned, and that is a lesson learned for us, but that's a lesson learned for the industry as well. Okay.
See, I think
So
it's bigger. I think it's bigger than that, and we just disagree. We just disagree on
so what is
the.
it? What is it? What do you want me to fire people? Who do you want me to fire? Swap. I mean, what
let's- I mean, don't talk
you're
confidently.
talking,
I don't wanna get
I don't think
counted
it's a
on
question
this.
of incompetence, okay? Because I think a lot of very competent people were looking at this, okay? A lot of very smart people, a lot of, a lot of brilliant engineers were looking very closely at this stuff, and this vulnerability never occurred to anyone, okay? It doesn't mean that it was incompetent. It doesn't mean it was grossly negligent. It just means that there was an oversight, that no one picked up. Okay, so it wasn't like it was one person's responsibility and that person failed. Okay, it wasn't like that at all. So I'm not sure what else to say except that it is an important lesson, that about Bitcoin security, and I think that with the things that we were trying to do, well, we're not
What
going
were
to
you
see
trying
anything.
to do beyond the U.S.? Because I keep thinking about the U.S. market
No,
trade.
forget the U.S. market. Okay, the fact that we had BitGo in place and we were dealing with the CFTC, and they basically said, look, one way you could deal with this problem is if you could address the actual delivery process. And we had where we said we could tweak the existing implementation for BitGo to service that, but that represented a tiny fraction of the coins involved here.
But
Okay,
it feels like that the hack wouldn't have happened if it wasn't
not
for
true.
that tiny tweak. Not
No.
true? Okay.
Not true at all. People have wanted to conflate that. People have wanted to blame the CFTC for their meddling that created the security fit. No, 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 no. As much as I would like to engage in that narrative, it's an intellectually dishonest narrative. That's not what happened, and it would have, that we would have been vulnerable in the same way, whether or not we had implemented the third key solution for a select number of U.S. customers who wanted to do margin trading.
Okay. That answers it better. I think I get a better idea now.
Wait, so you weren't forced to use BitGo?
No, we were using BitGo way before we were talking to the CFTC.
So when did you guys had cold storage though before, right?
Yeah.
So wait, why did you take it to cold storage? What was the problem with that?
Because we basically wanted, we were lured into the idea that you should have a third party cosigner. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. Why not?
Wait, there's more than one person. There's more than one person that agreed to that. Because I'm sorry, Phil. If I had a cold storage solution, I mean, you don't have to be a Bitcoin for a while to understand how cold storages work and how multi-sigs work.
Mr.
If you have that much money, I mean,
listen to me. The purpose that we believed, okay, for better for worse, okay, we believed, and others could have criticized this, and nobody did. I just want to point that out. But we believed that us holding an operational key, which was further secured by so-called security tokens that required a quorum of security tokens to unlock our operational key. But there was a vulnerability there, which in our design of the BitGo of the server that talked to BitGo. So there was a vulnerability in our design that allowed somebody to get a quorum of tokens, of security tokens, to unlock our operational key. All right. But also that the idea, well, that you have BitGo on their side, and for them to sign, needs to follow a set of rules, et cetera, et cetera. Well, in all this process of us developing this API with them, which they basically developed for our benefit, we were their largest customer by far, that there was additional features and functionality added to that API, which in turn made it possible for our one key to essentially change the security settings on their side without any out-of-band confirmations. So that's the key vulnerability right there.
I think that's new information. Is that new information? I think that's.
I've discussed this before. This stuff will all be in the report.
I mean, that's what.
But look, at the end of the day,
Yeah,
we believed that having an online multi-sig solution was as different, but as secure as offline as kind of cold storage, like the way we're doing it. Like,
so these consultants, is this a public list of people who signed? Because I think
it's basically us. It's the people that work for us, and the people who work for BitGo. That was a group of people.
You didn't have you said
BitGo
we did. I've
sense.
already answered that question. No, we have not. We did not think that we were going to BitGo as as that group of people that we were looking for a security solution. You know,
But you
that
didn't
was
have like a random like thought leader in the industry. Like it was you and your guys and BitGo's guys. There wasn't like anyone else like that.
that's right.
Okay.
And BitGo has incentives to obviously lure you into their business. Like of course they're going to tell
Perhaps,
you
but
that.
you know what? I'm not. You know, look. I just want to be very clear. I'm not here to disparage BitGo at all. I'm just basically saying, look, we went and used their service. They built out custom stuff, custom API. I mean, not really custom, but they built out an API largely for our use. And in that process, vulnerabilities were introduced that they did not see and that we did not see, you know, as being a potential problem. And also, that potential problem was exacerbated by the fact that we believed that the use of the security tokens on our side was secure, and it turns out that it wasn't. You know, that was a design problem on our side. But again, one of those things that, you know, we felt like, you know, could have been picked up by others, but it just wasn't. It just, you know, so you ask like why things happen, you know, like why are there failure modes? Why did 3 Mile Island happen? Why did Chernobyl happen? Why did, you know,
Phil, it's a little different. That's different, man. I mean, this is something.
Why did the space shuttle blow up? There's all kinds. Sometimes it comes down to small little things that are overlooked. You know, even though you might have a rigorous process.
Thing.
No,
Phil,
wait. A small. Look, in hindsight, it looks obvious. At the time, it was not. Okay. After everybody's poured over and analyzed and understood what the vulnerability actually was, it's hard to find vulnerabilities when you're looking for a needle in a haystack. But when you find it, you're like, oh, I know exactly where it was.
How did somebody else find it then?
What's that?
How did somebody else find it if you and BitGo didn't find it?
Well, I mean, we figured it out once the Bitcoins were stolen.
How did somebody else find it though? How did they, like, if you looked over it and BitGo looked over it, you know, and it was like so like hidden and like hard to see, how did somebody else find it?
Well, I mean, because they see how we were penetrated. They see how the coins went out. And like, well, how could that have been? Well, I guess it's because of this. Once you have the evidence of a theft, you know, or a vulnerability being exploited, then it's clear what the vulnerability was. But if it wasn't, it did not occur. You know, what do you want me to say about it? I don't understand.
I understand exactly what you're saying. But say a hack didn't happen. If you were to ask me, what's the difference between cold storage and a multisig? I would say to you that if two computers get compromised and two keys get compromised,
we understand that they were different. We understand that they're different. We're not idiots. Okay?
So why in the world? I'm trying to figure out what was the point of going to the multi-sig solution if you're going to force to do it.
That using a third-party key signer in a multi-sig situation, even though all those coins are technically online, we believe that to be as secure, you know, or the security to be comparable for our purposes to traditional cold storage. That was the fundamental belief that we espoused. That people, you know, that look. It's not like I was getting any dire warnings from anyone in the industry. Oh, no, Phil, you can't do it this way. Oh, no, you're vulnerable.
Was this like pre-announced? Was this like, hey, guys, this is our idea or whatever? Like,
Did you ask? Did you ask anyone?
What, you have to ask in the community? People tell you if they think you're doing something wrong.
It? Like, saying, hey, we're going to be changing.
Okay, you know what?
How do we know that you were doing that? You didn't tell anyone that you were doing that.
Of course we did. We had this thing with BitGo, and everybody has segregated online wallets. Everything settles automatically every 2 hours. You know, you think we're doing that with cold storage keys?
Did you get
no, but it was
like
already
a
done,
response
though. When you
from
said
the
that,
public from that? Like, I'm curious, like, what was the conversation at the time?
Yeah, when you said that, it was already done.
Yeah. And we've been operating like that for over a year.
Come on here. If you were to come on here before this happened and you were to say, hey, we're thinking about doing this, I guarantee you most of us would say, are you out of your mind?
I've been in here and during that year after we implemented BitGo and before the hack, I've been in here and I've talked many, many times about the benefits of the BitGo solution. Many, many times. Okay? It's not cold storage. How can it be cold storage?
I didn't think you were going to throw the whole...
How can it be? Think about
Like,
it. I mean, look,
no,
I understand,
get it. I understand
that
that you need
hindsight,
some. I
it
understand
looks
some money.
obvious in hindsight. It looks obvious in hindsight. But in retrospect, we replaced traditional cold storage with what we believe to be the evolutionary point forward and how security was going to be done. You'd use a trusted third party as your key, as your cosigner, you know, and that the hacker would have to compromise multiple infrastructures for there to be a breach. And you know what? We trusted BitGo because it's their business that their key would remain unbreachable. And sure enough, it was unbreached. Okay.
But were they just auto signing stuff? Like,
but that sounds like there was a single point of failure. If their key wasn't compromised, then there was a single point of failure in the infrastructure, which means it's like,
well, that was introduced later on, where they gave us functionality that allowed you to change the security settings that governed the rule set by which they automatically sign transactions. So that was the key. That's the key. Okay. The fact that there was one key and one key there, one key there, and if the rules were immutable or they had to be adjusted out of band or something like that, then this hack would have been, you know, it would have been the hot wallet, and you guys probably would never hear about it, right? Because we'd absorb it in a month's worth of revenue. But the point here is that a vulnerability was introduced. So the basic premise, okay, of replacing cold storage with third-party key signing multi-sig solution is by itself not necessarily a problem if you believe the security of that cosigner is tight. I have no reason to believe that their security is problematic. Their key was not compromised. The problem is that in all of the engineering, there was functionality introduced that allowed
there's a bug in your API.
No, it wasn't a bug in our API.
Not your API, but their API.
Not a bug. Not a bug. It was a feature that they added that had consequences that we did not fully understand.
Where you take off all the restrictions from the auto signing process.
Well, the whole idea is that it only required our key to change. Right. It basically it changed it from multi-sig to single sig by virtue of the notion that our key was sufficient to change the security settings on their side, so that basically the rules engine would actually so that any transaction would pass the rules engine.
Who would know that though? Who would know how to change the rules? I mean, was that documented because it's custom? Was it documented on BitGo?
Well, all of BitGo's software, all of your software is open source.
How did the actor get the key? Your key? You guys know that?
We don't. We that is something that's been the focus of the security audit. We have strong indications. We have some artifacts, you know, but we don't know the exact way they got in. I mean, it must have been. There's only a couple ways in which it could happen, and you know, we've shut those doors, so to speak. But we still don't know the exact way it happened.
That implementation comes off incredibly hacky, like as if you were. That's why I keep thinking about the CF.
Well, you know, you say that, but you know, that's a great comment for you to make from your standpoint, when you know nothing about the code and you know nothing about the development process and you know nothing about the fact that we took a long time to do this, you know, and you don't know anything about what we went through with the CFTC. So you've made a bunch of suppositions are blatantly false about that.
I'm not going to push off the CF. I'm just saying that's why it's.
What's hacky? What's hacky about it? I don't understand. You
just said it. It turns the multi-sig into a single sig. Like, we're already away from cold storage now. Now we're on the idea of multi-sig.
The idea is that they're trying to add functionality.
But if you think about it, if there's a bug,
it was ill-conceived functionality. Okay, it should not have been added. Okay,
it seems like it's getting around the thing you're trying to do, and that's why I say it comes off hacky.
Well, get around what thing that we're trying to do? I mean, it was
trying to have secure multi-sig, but instead now you have an API call or that basically just says sign everything. So as long as the server's up and as long as this access gateway process is up,
we did not.
It's essentially single.
We did not. To be clear, we did not see it that way. Okay, so for example, the idea was that we needed the ability. Okay, so every account, when an account gets created up, a certain velocity limits are set on it. Like a new account can only do 50 Bitcoins in 24 hours withdrawal. And then when we said, well, no, we need to have different templates, right? We need a level 1, level 2, level 3. So they set up the templates on their side. And then we can upgrade an account from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, which allows, say, different amounts of Bitcoins velocity of Bitcoins in and out over some period of time. So in order for us to change somebody from level 1 to level 2, it requires two security tokens on our side, and or a quorum of 2 to unlock to sign the message on our side, to go back over to them to say, okay, change the security template for this account. So that's where it started in terms of having the API allow us to change certain security features. Well, turns out that there was the ability was introduced to be able to change certain, like the global velocity limits. And that was really what happened at the end, is that they took advantage of that to basically circumvent, any security on the BitGo side. So BitGo was blindly signing because because they'd received instructions from us, i.e. the hacker, to change the security settings. And that was a flaw. That should never have happened. So if we take a step back and we say, okay, if that flaw was not introduced, okay, is a third-party multi-sig signing solution like that, is that still problematic? And I would say, well, on the face of it, well, I mean, if it's well designed, then no. But the problem that I'm realizing now is that I have no way of knowing that it's well designed. It's like, that's the problem, is I don't know. Maybe we were vulnerable to other things, because both keys are technically online. Ours is online, could be unlocked online, and theirs is online, subject to a rules engine. So, there is, it's theoretically, even though unlikely, it's still theoretically vulnerable in a way in which, offline cold storage isn't, or HSM based, multi-sig. It's like, that's what we use, treasures now to sign multi-sig transactions, and
but
it's
where did the motivation even come in the start to make this decision to go away from cold storage? Like, why? What benefit was there even to go on this experiment with BitGo?
There were several things.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so one of them is that we wanted to create transparency. So we wanted to be able to show you your Bitcoins on the blockchain. So if you bought Bitcoins and they were sitting in your account, we would want every couple hours we were settling everything on blockchain, which costs a lot of money, by the way, in terms of mining fees. But we wanted it so that you can go online and you can see that your Bitcoins are there, right? That in a segregated wallet. And so that it was basically, we were settling all your transactions to the blockchain. And we felt that that was an evolutionary step forward on transparency, because before, the best you could get was like doing like a Merkleized tree of balances and have periodic audits and what have you. But this was like real-time proof of reserves in a way. We were proving that we have your Bitcoins, and your Bitcoins are segregated from everybody else's. Okay, so we thought that was an important transparency step. It also ties into our long-standing commitment to not requiring KYC for certain types of customers. And in order for that to be possible, and this is, again, us anticipating, dealing with regulators, because I've spent a lot of time in my career dealing with regulators in one vein or another. But what we saw happening is that, we saw Bitstamp. And this is really what Bitstamp does. You can have unverified accounts of Bitstamp, and they were our principal competitor at the time when we were first talking to BitGo, which was a long time ago when we first started talking to them. And we said, well, we don't want to get pushed into that. We believe in our customers' privacy, and if we don't need to know information about them, if information about them is not necessary to complete a transaction, then why do we need that information? We understand that if you're going to do fiat transactions with us, we need the KYC because the banks require that, and it's part of the law. It is fine, but the principal problem that's levied, or the principal criticism to anonymous accounts is the potential for money laundering. And so we felt that a solution to that is that it would be if you had a segregated wallet, all your funds would come in and out of a particular address so that there would be transparency on the blockchain with respect to law enforcement or anyone. They would see if they, because the problem is that people can use exchanges essentially as mixers, right? If they send coins in, it goes into the cold wallet hot pot, the cold wallet pot, and then you withdraw coins and you're getting different coins, right? And if you don't know who that person is,
yeah, but
I'm just saying, we wanted to prevent people from using us as a mixer.
I would,
right?
yeah,
So the segregated wallet solution prevented that. So
it seems really risky. Are those the only reasons why you went about it? Because you wanted to supposedly give better privacy to users and prevent mixing? Are those the two reasons? Or?
Well, we wanted to give better privacy to our users vis-a-vis their identity, but we were actually reducing privacy for them on the blockchain. Okay, that was the quid pro quo. And we felt that we do battles with regulators all the time. We believe very strongly in being able to allow for anonymous accounts to use us. Anonymous. We believe strongly in that. But there may be trade-offs for that. And one trade-off that we perceived was that if we had segregated wallets, there would be no chance of people being able to launder their Bitcoins through us. So because Bitcoins would come in through an address and be emitted through the same address. And the only difference over time might be P&L. All right. So that we felt like was a strong argument. We just, at the end of the day, we perceived there to be a threat from regulation on this front, certainly after what happened with Bitstamp. And that was a while ago. But that was in the forefront of our minds at the time. And we felt that this would make us, we would not be the low-hanging fruit anymore with respect to regulators trying to make, trying to drive this point home on KYC.
For regarding the privacy,
the regulatory thing.
Stop. Regarding the privacy thing, don't you have law enforcement contacts that sometimes periodically ask you for information
Sure.
without a court order that you give them, right?
No. The way it works is that we have law enforcement get in touch with us all the time. They ask us, the problem is that so the way we do it now, and I think this works for other exchanges too, but we'll be approached, say, hey, we're looking for information on these 5 addresses. Are they your deposit addresses? Do you have any information on it? And what we would do is we'll say, yes, we have information. You have to go through process to get it. So we wait for the subpoena, which we invariably get, and then we comply with the subpoena. So, but if sometimes they're verified accounts, and we turn over the information we have, but many times they're not verified accounts, and we just say, well, we don't know who it is, but this is the email that's associated with the account, and here's the trades they did. This is the money that came in and out. Here are the transactions they did, and that's it. And then
so you never give information to any law enforcement agents, no FBI, nothing, without a subpoena or other court order?
Correct. What we will do is we will tell them whether or not we have information, because it's very painful and expensive to have to go through subpoenas if you don't think there's any information there, right? So oftentimes they're going on a fishing expedition. They're asking all the exchanges the same question. And if we happen to have the information, yeah, we'll tell them, yes, we do have information on these guys, but we can't release it, without proper due process.
Phil, I got a question. I get like a couple of years ago, fine, I would buy the whole thing with the mixing and with the exchanges, but now with all these tools that with blockchain analysis, it doesn't take much work to put the addresses together. So if somebody really is trying to hide coins, he's not going to use an exchange as a mixer.
Actually, you'd be surprised. An exchange, a big, deep exchange that's got huge cold wallets, is actually one of the best ways to mix your coins.
Yeah, but mixing coins with other Bitcoins is not. It's been already proven that it's just not. It's not possible. You're gonna get blockchain analysis will crack that. You have to go
Yeah,
from chain to chain.
blockchain analysis will not crack that, but law enforcement analysis of an exchange will, right? So what they'll see, because that's the problem. Once coins hit an exchange with a commingled cold wallet, that is near perfect mixing, because your 50 bitcoins goes into 100,000 bitcoins, and whenever you take those 50 bitcoins back out, you're getting completely different bitcoins. I mean, and the connection between those is almost non-existent. And the only thing that an exchange that law enforcement can do is they can recognize that those coins went to an exchange, and then ask for details from us about their withdrawals, so they can pick up the trail.
Can't they just use altcoins?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If they were smart, they would be using Monero, but not everyone is smart.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a different problem. I'm trying to solve the problem with Bitcoin,
Yeah.
And I agree that's a different problem, and I agree that the relative importance of these things is small relative to the security of the coins. So at the end of the day, there was a bunch of reasons why we thought that this made sense. Okay. And that's it. I mean, and not to mention, of course, that we also felt that there was another reason why to use BitGo, which actually had to do with the hot wallet. Using BitGo as a hot wallet was great because we had a situation where we did get hacked right before we finished our implementation with BitGo, ironically enough, where our hot wallet got hacked. And so the problem with that, it was somebody got in, got the keys, and the problem is that if anybody in the future that deposits money to that wallet, we're constantly still running a job trying to sweep that stuff out. But the problem is that forever that anyone who sends anything to those old addresses, those addresses are compromised. If we were using BitGo for a hot wallet at the time, then we would just say, okay, we're going to move to a new keychain and just never cosign anything that's coming in from these addresses, and you can basically stop that problem cold in its tracks.
Yeah, but what if say I use the mixing servers or something, and then I send it to an address, and then I send it to another address, and then I send it to you?
Well, that's not the question I was just answering, but okay.
Oh, sorry, I got in the middle of that.
No, look, people can use mixing services. They can do whatever. I'm just simply saying, we received so many law enforcement inquiries that part of it was just, we at the time, again, this is over 2.5 years ago when we first started talking about BitGo. Okay. At the time, we just perceived there to be a follow-on explosion of law enforcement requests. And what we wanted to do is that we wanted to take ourselves out of that process. We wanted to say, no. You don't need, you can follow it all online. Here, we got segregated wallets. Money came in, and then all the transactions from there are just to our main settlement wallet and back. If you buy or sell Bitcoins, settle. And then, anything that's not going against the settlement wallet is a withdrawal from the system. And then they can, once we educated law enforcement on it, they're like, oh, this is great. So they don't even have to bother us. We don't even have to answer subpoenas. So, there was a lot of very carefully considered reasons for doing this. And again, against the backdrop of us believing that a third-party key signer with a hardened, infrastructure, was, for our purposes, good enough security for our customers. And if it had remained that way, if that API had never been built, and the ability to change the security settings to the API had never been implemented, then we wouldn't be having this conversation today. But, in the effort to try to deliver more functionality and more automation, a feature got implemented that ultimately created a vulnerability that was ultimately our downfall.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, maybe it would be a good idea have you considered making periodic disclosures of how many subpoenas you get, how many law enforcement requests for any kind of information you get, that kind of thing?
I mean, we can't really disclose that. You know that.
You get transparency report. Lots of companies do transparency reports on an annual basis.
Oh, I mean, yeah, on a post facto basis, we could do that, I suppose. But I mean, we get a bunch. I mean, not as many these days as we used to. But I mean, there was a time. You know what it is that there was a time when law enforcement didn't really know how to look, didn't know how to really do anything themselves. Now they've got all the chain analysis tools. They've got specialists now, and when we hear from people, they're 90% of the time they're asking us for information that they already know that there are addresses. They know that we have info on it. You know, so they've been doing their due diligence. So we're getting fewer requests, but they're more targeted.
You could put out numbers to that effect.
We could. I mean,
Google does it. They're really good at it.
Add it to my to-do list.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit,
because
right.
So if you're trying to stay within, like, you know, you're trying to be friendly with all the regulatory people, why the hell did you add Monero?
At the end of the day, I think that people have a right to privacy. You know. I mean,
So I just say fuck.
Look, it's a fine line that we're walking, you know, and the concerns that I had before, which you know, engendered this idea of these segregated wallets with BitGo, we're not feeling that same pressure anymore. So we don't feel that same regulatory pressure to do something about the AML stuff on chain. And frankly, our solution was quite novel. No one else is talking about that. And now that we don't have it anymore, it's not that I'm not feeling a great hole, you know, not having it. And so I think that the pendulum is swinging back in the other direction with respect to our obligations on having to take a sort of extraordinary technological steps with respect to creating better AML, you know, transparency. I don't feel that same urge like I was feeling 2.5 years ago.
The law enforcement, I'm guessing it was U.S. law enforcement, no one else around the world, right?
No, are you kidding me? All over the world.
Oh, so they all were asking you for information.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's mostly U.S. and Europe. Occasionally Canada, but occasionally Asia, authorities in Asia.
Are you allowed to disclose this information?
I don't see why I'm not allowed to disclose the information on a post facto basis. You know, like
unless you get like a national security letter, like the guy that LiveApit got, that tells you that you may not tell anybody that you even received this order. Like, of course, you're allowed to talk publicly.
No.
About...
I think that we can offer aggregate statistics. We might be able to say we received X number of inquiries, X number of subpoenas. You know,
X number fulfilled. Like, I think that's important. Fulfilled versus not fulfilled.
We fulfill all subpoenas.
Well, like how many requests you get versus how many requests actually get a follow-up subpoena. Like,
yeah, okay. You know what? All that's useful, but there's a lot of data that would have to be tracked and looked at and what have you. And as nice that information would be to have, I don't have the bandwidth to put that together. So, you know, it's I made a note here, add it to my list, but I would not expect those types of statistics anytime soon.
Cool.
Well, I know that you're saying that the CFTC didn't have much decision with this, but it still had to do with law enforcement and not wanting to deal with that shit. So I still blame it on the state.
Okay.
Well, you said like a lot of it was, maybe it wasn't CFTC because obviously BitGo had
we were
before CFTC.
No. Let me be clear. With respect to the idea of the segregated wallet and being able to use that as kind of and to kind of thwart the use of us as a mixer, you know, that was us trying to anticipate, you know, a need. Okay, what we were seeing back in, gosh, when was this? Early 2014, I guess, is when we started first talking to BitGo, when they first kind of got their thing off the ground, and we were anticipating, we were just getting a shit ton of law enforcement requests at the time. And like I said, we've gotten much less now, and they're much more targeted. But we were, and also Bitstamp stopped taking anonymous customers, right? And that happened at mid 2014 or something like that. It was around then when we were just like, wait a second, are we going to follow suit here? And we were not getting any pressure to do so. There was the Bitstamp has a very particular setup that kind of required them to do that. But we were just trying to anticipate regulatory pressure coming in. And then people remember the bit license was happening and other things. I mean, we were trying to get ahead of the curve, frankly, on this, and trying to use, and a lot of brainstorming between us and BitGo on how we can leverage that technology to be able to serve other ends, not just not just a security issue, but a transparency issue, because that was also a big one. Right after Gox, everybody was talking about transparency and audits, and so we did a proof of reserves audit. So did Kraken. But those are a headache to do, and they're only periodic, right? We're like, what's better than that? Well, what if what if people could see their Bitcoins on the blockchain? So basically, we were. I'm sorry, we were seduced, okay, by that possibility. So yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Phil, what Mr. Hall, what Phil is saying is, don't blame the state, blame Bitfinex. They unnecessarily put customer funds in this experimental BitGo scheme, and that's what fucked it, not the state.
Look, it was our mistake to. Yeah, I mean, look, it's our fault. Of course it is.
Obviously, you have Ledger Labs now, but for big, conceptual ideas like this hot wallet thing, I would like the idea of a request for comment. I don't know, we should be relying on security through obscurity and stuff like that. We should have a conversation about it, maybe.
Well, I've conversed about it in here many times. We have many announcements and blog posts about it. I mean,
and did you get feedback? Did you get criticism? Was that considered?
Not really. We did not. I mean, and I talked to all kinds of core people all the time, and other people. There was nobody. And again, the fundamentally, it's a secure solution. The problem is the introduction of
I wouldn't agree with that. I would think that you would always need a human in the loop, and the idea of having a key on a server that has a script.
That's the point. You should have a human in the loop when you talk about changing security settings. Okay, so fundamentally, before the API allowed us to make these security changes, okay.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
I'm not gonna.
You have a script, there could be a bug in the access control, there could be a bug anywhere in that code.
I agree. In retrospect, even if that did not occur, I now understand. Even without that vulnerability, even now I understand. The problem is that other unknown vulnerabilities could occur, right? There could be another bug in the code that creates some kind of unhandled exception.
Which is the entire idea of a cold wallet. That's why people do that.
No, right. So I am telling you, yes, our fault. We thought that we could equate one for the other, and that's just simply not the case.
And I know everybody wants to say, pointed out if you were to have said, "Hey, this is our new implementation."
And we did say this is our new implementation, and no one said a fucking thing. Okay.
Okay, Bob.
Oh, but you could have been a lot more public about it.
We were public about it. Swap. We were public about it. I would talk about it all.
He did say it.
All the time.
He did say it. I remember.
Maybe it was before your time in here, but I was in here all the time talking about it. Okay, and we had blog posts about it, and we've and BitGo was running around talking about it and advertising it and trying to sell the solution to other exchanges.
It was before my time. I don't know. I'm just asking.
Transparency, it's all there.
Yeah, I thought it was a great idea too, but I didn't think that the entire all the money is going to be on there. I thought it was just going to be for the.
Well, wait. Okay, then I understand that, but how can it be possible to see all your Bitcoins on the blockchain if all the Bitcoins are not in there? I understand your point, but think about it. Our solution by definition,
wait, hold on.
means
I'm
there's no
confused.
cold storage.
I'm confused. So, how many coins were taken? 100 and what? 119,000?
120,000.
120,000. So, and those coins came from all those coins came out of each person's wallet directly, right?
Right. They started with the biggest ones first and moved down. Yep.
Okay. Because I thought it was
until we stopped them. There was 90,000 left.
I got it.
How can BitGo just like let so much go so quickly?
Because again, the problem is their rules engine was told that it was okay, because they apparently got a instruction from us to make the change. Now, in retrospect, BitGo's already changed their system so that you can't change these things unless you get out-of-band confirmation. Okay, great, nice change, but a necessary one. And but fundamentally, it is. But whether or not it's that, or it's subject to some other bug or something like that, it's not cold storage in the same way that offline cold storage is, or even what we do, which is we use a HSM based multi-sig solution now. So
okay, so here's the thing, Phil. Obviously, I was here a year and a half ago when you were implementing it, and all you guys did was say BitGo's fucking amazing. This is unhackable. All your
I would sit here.
Are segregated.
I would go into
you
great
didn't
detail.
give a technical overview.
I would go into great detail about what.
How can anyone publicly criticize it if you don't publicly make a technical
it was
breakdown
publicly
of what the new system is?
It was publicly obvious that it wasn't in a cold wallet.
Okay, show me, Phil. Show me the blog post that you made,
how
which
is it
gives
possible?
you a technical outline of the new system.
Swap. I would be in here all the time, and I would say, and everybody that can verify their balance on the blockchain, how would that be possible if we weren't using cold storage?
But those are selling points. Those aren't technical details. Those are selling points.
Some kind of HD wallet.
Oh, Jesus Christ! The point is that we weren't using cold storage. We were using multi-sig third-party key signer technology in place of cold storage. That's what we were doing.
Make a nice public appeal to everybody saying this is our massive change where we are no longer using the industry standard. You didn't do that.
Well, we didn't use that terminology, but we said what we were doing. But no one,
no one
thought through the consequences. Swap. I'm not blaming anyone else except ourselves, but I'm just pointing out it's not as if there was pitchforks at our door saying no, don't do this. Okay, there was silence, and we were very clear about what we were doing. This was everybody had segregated wallets, and we were settling all of their transactions to the blockchain multiple times a day. Okay, that's not possible if it's in cold storage. It's just not possible. Okay, so whether or not somebody made the inferences or not, the point is that everybody was asleep at the wheel on this one. Okay, in a sense. All right, we thought we had a secure solution. A vulnerability got introduced. We did not understand the consequences of that new feature, which was the heart of the vulnerability. We did not, BitGo did not, and somebody took advantage of that, and that's basically what happened. Okay, but to say that nobody knew that this stuff was in segregated wallets and it was basically online is complete bullshit. If anybody who cared,
you guys focused only on selling points instead of the overall.
It's not. Of course we're focusing on selling points, but the point is that we replaced cold storage with online multi-sig solution with a secure third-party key signer, and it was secure until this API change was made. Okay.
I just wanted to say, I think the point Swap was making is that people weren't able to criticize how good the solution was because nobody really understood how the solution worked. So
exactly.
But wait a second. But the solution was moving coins around on the blockchain all the time.
Bitfinex and trust in them that they had done due diligence in the new process.
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways that it could have been done. The one is you could have made a nice little technical outline of the whole system and go public and say, guys, we don't want to use cold storage anymore, and this is how our new system is going to look with BitGo. Instead of just, it's a multi-sig and using all these buzzwords. And I know BitGo has a big role in the whole fuck up as well. Trust me, I know that. But you could have done that, or you could have just at least gotten like a third-party security audit if you didn't want to be so public about the details.
So I
agree. To look at
I
it or
agree.
Whatever.
I agree that we should have used a third-party security audit. Okay, realize at the time, and again, this is just the psychology of what was going on. Is that at the time we thought we were using a third party, i.e., we were going to BitGo. Okay, but in retrospect, you are correct. We should have used.
But again,
Swap. You are right. We should have used another security firm to audit the whole solution, and a constant audit, because they could have, if they audited the initial solution, you know, they may have said, okay, this looks fine. And it wasn't until the API call was introduced that we actually had, you know, a real hole in that. Okay. A third-party audit would have probably uncovered the flaw on our side that allowed the security tokens to be aggregated and impersonated. So that there was a flaw there was a design flaw on our side that even made it possible for somebody to compromise the server and be able to send those messages to BitGo for countersigning. Okay, so there were other failures, but yes.
I genuinely believe that at the other end, because when you say multisig, you speak to Giancarlo and Lala, oh look, we need to recredit the hot wallet with another 2,000 bitcoins. Are we okay? Yeah, it's fine. And I thought that you would basically outsource some part of that to BitGo, and there were some humans on the other end at BitGo that were because the amount of money at stake, you would think that there would be a human sat there basically watching it 24/7. And but really, if people would have known it was just completely blindly just signing anything you sent over, well, within the rule set, okay, but it's still, if they got access to it, they could still just thrash the whole account thing. Then I think people would have been a lot more like, whoa, it's multisig, but hey, the third party is just blindly signing anything you send over to it, so.
They don't blindly sign. They have a rules engine. It's just that toward the very end, they introduced functionality that allowed us to change the rules from our side.
But even with the rules engine, if they would have iterated through the accounts and stripped out as much as possible from every account, it still would have been a decimating blow.
No, that would have been much. Well, I mean, look, the thing is, it would have been a completely different order of magnitude of a problem, much less. But I think that the issue here, at the end of the day, is that you're right. I don't want to get into what we believed and didn't believe about BitGo at the time, but I just think that their systems operated the way they were designed to operate. Okay, they've made that statement. I can say yes, that's true, but there was a design flaw from our perspective and their perspective, I think, that allowed for this type of thing to occur in the first place. I don't know what else to say except that, if people thought we were using cold storage, then they just, I don't know why you would come to that conclusion. We were pretty clear that we'd moved to.
No, I thought it was better than cold storage.
Well, that's what we thought.
Yeah, that's what it was sold at.
I thought cold storage was the thing of the past. This is even better than cold storage.
That's what we thought. Yeah.
So minus the permissions escalation feature, like, is this is what BitGo does for other people, right? They have a rule engine. No,
they don't. No, nobody uses BitGo for their core holdings like we did. Okay, people use BitGo. People use BitGo for their hot wallet. That's basically most of what they.
Phil, let me ask, who internally then would have the most expertise within blockchain technology? I hate to use that fucking term, but like in crypto in general, who would have the highest level of expertise, like Antonopoulos tier, in order to understand the implications of such a system?
Well, I mean, you've got the engineers over at BitGo who are
your guys.
Internally for you.
We have two people that are.
So can you give a name, like one of the
I'm not giving you fucking names, okay? What do you want, a witch hunt? I don't understand. I don't know. I don't understand.
What happened?
What's your point? We have qualified engineers. They had qualified engineers. Okay. What more do you want?
I think there was a philosophical oversight.
Expert that understands the technology good enough not to repeat similar mistakes. We're just looking out for the future here.
Okay. We are going back to a tried and true solution that basically everybody uses. Okay. We're using cold storage now. right? We have to use, we're basically using, HSM keys, treasures to sign multi-sig transactions to refill hot wallets at this point. Okay, that is what we do.
But you understand? Sorry, Flipper. I just want to say one thing. Can you understand that we are concerned?
I understand. So what I'm telling you is that we are doing something. We have now backed off to a solution that does not require, highly trained blockchain techs to figure out, because it's a tried and true solution. Okay, it works. It's very, very, very secure. Unless somebody compromises each one of our hardware tokens, unless our hardware tokens are all compromised and all of our pins are compromised, okay, then the cold storage is secure. Okay, so.
But if none of the C-levels on Finex had the expertise to understand that it couldn't be better than cold storage, then I mean, people in general here would be concerned about future decisions that rely on having this
I've already explained my position on this several times over, Swap. I'm not going to entertain this conversation further. And along that line. That
maybe on your team you could use a better expert on cryptographic issues.
Well, they have Ledger Labs now. They have
Jesus
Michael
Christ! What do you mean a better expert? I mean, the point is that
BitGo's snake oil is better than cold storage.
They have to have written a book, and they have to be called Andreas. That's it.
I mean, it was an oversight. You don't have to say that this guy's retarded or whatever. I mean, this is an oversight, and my major concern is
collective oversight of a lot of very smart people that know what they're doing. Theoretically.
Yeah. Can I? Okay. So what about BitGo? Because they obviously created this API call which allowed the limit to be withdrawn. I mean, that's a huge. They advertise themselves as like a security company. How do you be a security company when you're holding that much money? You're not like actively like monitoring it with hard limits or with somebody kind of like watching it.
I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why that got implemented in the way it did.
But
they're going to claim that it was because we requested it and requested it in that fashion. I don't have evidence that we requested it that way, but that's kind of besides the point. They introduced it. We were aware that it existed. We didn't think it through. It just.
Surely they should
and this is the problem. Look, here's the issue. The core problem here is that we introduced a lot of complexity, into a core security system that, frankly, for which we thought we were getting benefits, and that we thought that complexity was manageable. At the end of the day, what we learned is that the complexity is, despite how smart and knowledgeable the people in the room are, that it's not worth it to try to validate that complexity for what in retrospect seems like benefits that aren't worth it, relative to the potential security issues. So when I say we're going back to tried and true, we're going back to a solution that everybody, lots of people in the industry use. I don't know if they use exactly our solution, but it is secure. Now, is our hot wallet secure? I don't know. I mean, I suppose that could get raided, but we don't keep a lot in the hot wallet. Look, everybody's vulnerable for that.
So what about moving forward then? Okay, all that shit's happened.
Moving forward, I can't see how we could possibly be hacked at this point.
Tokens outstanding, because I read somewhere you said they'll be gone soonish. Hashtag.
What's that?
I read somewhere that you said in here tokens would be gone, quote, soonish. I mean, I'm saying Carpella's soonish.
Yeah, well, look, we've already half the tokens are already redeemed or converted. Okay. We're having some very strong results right now, so we're proving to the marketplace that we're not dead and buried and going away. So we're still clearly an important part of the ecosystem. So the business is viable, and that's being proven out every day. And then I think that so we're pretty confident that with our recent results and with some volatility, and if we get back up to the ATH and we see the volatility and we see that as volatility goes up, our percentage of the marketplace goes up bigger and gets bigger and bigger, we're not going to have a problem converting the rest of these tokens. Those tokens will get bought up, they'll get converted. We're talking to outside investors who are interested in coming in and buying them up. So I think that if we continue to see the types of activity we've been seeing in the last couple of weeks, and that continues for the first quarter, I think that those tokens are gone by the end of the quarter. Okay, but and if we have modest levels of activity based upon where we are right now, I have a hard time believing that those tokens are going to exist past 2017. That is my personal belief. But the wind is to our back on this. So that's I think that's I think a likely outcome is that they won't persist past 2017. The one scenario in which they do is that, let's say we get to April or May and we still have, like, I don't know, 10 million, 15 million tokens outstanding, and business is really good. We may just shut down conversions and just pay it out, out of earnings, because we think we're going to do that within a year, So it means that maybe they persist past 2017, but not much past that.
Phil, so going forward, Bitfinex has an understanding that in consideration of the majority of their Bitcoins, they need to have a human in the loop. Like, that's like critical and fundamental. Like, I disagree that they just had this just one feature that broke it. Like, I disagree with the concept that they have a server that has a script that signs stuff regardless of the permission layers between that. There's so many like things that can go wrong, and obviously did go wrong.
Look, now that we understand what that vulnerability was, it is now clear to me that there's so many other things that can go wrong. Okay, it just didn't seem that way to us at the time, and to a lot of other smart people around us.
But going forward, you guys, you need a human, right?
Are you fucking really asking me that question right now?
I don't.
Are you really? I mean, yes, of course. We are now doing multi-sig via Treasure wallets. Where we're basically signing fucking multi-sig transactions to refill our cold wallets every day.
Yeah, the reason
refill our hot wallets every day. Okay. Yes, which is what we were doing before. Okay.
I don't mean to be anything. It's just you keep saying it's just this feature, and it's not the feature. It's like the whole idea at affiliate. It's like
I've already acknowledged that several times, Bob.
Okay.
I've acknowledged that several times already. Yes. Not only was that vulnerability, should we highlighted the fact that fundamentally this is a vulnerable system. It may have been not vulnerable from the standpoint from a certain point of view, from a code audit standpoint, oh, this looks really tight. But theoretically, a system that's being upgraded and changed, and an open source platform. Also, let's not forget that, it's an open source platform. So anybody with ill intent could actually study that platform. And so the other conclusion I've reached is that when it comes to security software, I'm thinking closed source may be better than open source.
Oh, that I don't agree with. I mean, the fact that everyone can audit it and it doesn't get broken, that's a good thing.
Also, the fact that an attacker can study it in great depth, I don't know. I mean, I'm not convinced either way, but it does bring up that question in my mind. Jeff, I want to address your point about the report not being out there. You say it's a huge red flag. I can tell you, I wouldn't consider it a red flag. There are very good reasons why we haven't released it yet, and it's really about trying to make this complete. And it's more complicated than you might think. And it's an ongoing. There's part of an ongoing investigation too. So there are complexities to this. We're trying to get it out there as soon as possible. That's really,
Well, and I think this conversation in general, I think emphasizes the need for this report, and what you're perceiving as hostility from people is really just a demand for not foreclosure.
I understand that.
Yeah, for closure.
I understand that, but
so that they
you
can
only
move on.
you can only ask questions, but when you ask the same question from a slightly different angle every time, when I'm answering it to the best of my ability. Look, I here's the other thing too. People want accountability, and I understand that. This happened. This was our fault. Okay. It happened. It was our fault. We understand that. We are owning up to that, and we are trying to do the best we can for our customers going forward. What I can tell you is that this type of thing cannot happen again, because we are no longer exposed to the, we're no longer in a situation where we're dealing with online keys in our cold storage. Okay, we're just not. And yes, is our hot wallet at risk? Yeah. Could we be hacked again somehow? Yeah, I suppose. But the whole idea is to minimize that impact. And if our hot wallet got raided again, maybe we lose half a month's worth of revenue. Okay, and that's how it used to be. And it's inconvenient, but I will do anything. Inconvenience is not an issue for us when it comes to security. We thought that we could get something better with the BitGo stuff, and we thought that we could advance the state of the art down the road, that we would create the new model for the, but I guess that was, we were wrong. We were wrong. But what I can say is that what we're doing today is secure. And we've been audited to that effect, and that is also part of the report. So it is, I'm not, if people want heads to roll, they're not going to see heads rolling. So, that, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to disappoint. But outside of that, we're doing everything we can to regain the public trust, and continue to advance our business plan down the field.
I'm okay with naming and shaming people for signing off on bad ideas.
I signed off on it. Giancarlo signed off on it. Our CTO, who is extremely, extremely knowledgeable, signed off on it. All the people at BitGo thought this was a great idea. They wanted it. We were developing this with them with the idea of co-marketing this as a solution. Okay, so this is not like a one-off thing that they were just doing for us. We were trying to build something together. So it's extremely shocking realization for us all to come to, but at the heart of it, there was the flaw that was introduced, but as Bob, as you point out, I agree with you. Overall, any solution where two keys are online and can be no matter what kind of sort of digital fortress you erect around them, it's still theoretically vulnerable, and I agree. And so that is why we're not going to move back to a modified solution. We're going to stick with cold storage.
Okay, back to the issue before that you said that's not really related, about whether open source is more safe or secure versus closed source. I mean, do you realize that every encryption algorithm is open source precisely because they need to stress test it? And
I'm not saying I prefer closed source for security. I'm just saying that I think it brings up a question mark in my mind. I want to make it very clear. I'm not saying I prefer closed source. The one thing that is true about this attack is that somebody had very deep, intimate knowledge of the BitGo system. Okay. And
how deep?
Nothing deeper than could be gleaned from the source code.
Was that a feature escalation in the open source version?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we have to, we always compiled our binaries, right? So, they'd have to give us the source. And it was posted, it was on GitHub and what have you. It's open source. So the problem is that part of me feels like, yes, you can have lots of people out there reviewing code and this, that, and the other, and that's true. But I don't know. And it just feels like, here's a piece of software that's getting lots of merges and commits and this, that, and the other. It's being updated a lot, or they got an API, they're adding new functionality all the time. It just seems to me that a malicious actor can just kind of, who, just wait, they just have to wait and just search and look and find, and then if they find something, then, it's been there the whole time, I guess. I don't know. But it's made me question the open source process. I'm not saying that it's not the best way to do it. It just means that before I always say, yeah, open source. Now I'm questioning it. That's all.
Well, and that's why I just wanted to continue that line of discussion to sort of convince you to stop leaning that way and to realize that
the fact that I'm not leaning anyway, I am questioning it, and I don't feel like having the discussion about open source versus not open source right now, to be honest with you. but I'm not. But my questioning of it is not mean that I've changed anything from our standard industry practice of not, of requiring of requiring source code before for us to compile. But it just may be that there are certain circumstances where maybe closed source is better. I'm just not interested in debating that right now.
Well, that's a shame because I was, so I guess we got it.
I've been talking for a long time here, and I got to get back to making sure I can get this redemption done today. So,
yeah, listen, Phil, we appreciate that you guys have done really good at picking up the pieces after the thing was already done. You guys basically acted flawlessly after the fact. I mean, I think my concern and what many other people's concern is simply to get closure about how it even all happened in the start. I mean, that's really the open issue. But you guys have done a fantastic job afterwards. So I'll say that. And he just fucking muted anyway.
I think people need closure because you were the chosen ones. He's on mute. On Star Wars, you were the chosen ones.
Thanks for answering the questions, Phil.
He's already gone.
Oh. Well.
I think that's why it hurt extra pain though, because Phoenix was the chosen ones. Stamp was always shit. BGC is always like, what the fuck. China's always China. Phoenix was the chosen one for USD. It hurt. It was a gut shot. And people trusted in them with their money. And it went wrong. And it fucking hurt.
Yeah, and given that there's a certain burden on other parties that's versus others, so that's, I'm not trying to be unnecessarily hostile at all. It's never been my agenda.
It's just come across like that.
Well, I learned a lot.
I'm sorry, but when you and a couple of others are amplifying this like dick sucking narrative, then
I don't know why you
and no one else, people are scared to bring up the counter arguments. Then I have to step in to provide these counter arguments because
no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Listen, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if people are not liking me for that. The point is that people are trying to learn the more and more information. That's the point here.
Yeah, I can understand wanting to close source something though. Like if you had some compiled binary that was doing some task with Bitcoin D and withdrawals, I can understand having it completely closed source and the only person that has access to it is the main dev. I mean, it's going to limit your line of inquiry if anything goes wrong, isn't it?
No, I don't think there's any circumstances that it makes any sense to close source the code. I mean, it just SHA-256 is open source. I mean, all the shit is
the
most
think about it. If you're doing
open
some
source,
work,
precisely because that's the best way to secure it.
Yeah, but also if you're doing some work, that's fine. If you're like doing Linux or Bitcoin and you have like thousands of people and all their interests are aligned to make it secure. But if you have some open source software between you, BitGo, and a couple of external developers, for example, then basically they can, maybe their interests aren't quite so well aligned, and they see a bug in the code and they think, well, I could fix this bug in the code now and continue my job, getting my my allowance that I get paid every day, or maybe I'll get maybe I'll just take advantage of this, or I'll pass it on to somebody else who will. So I think there's a case for both sides always.
Doesn't matter. It was a bad idea. BitGo is just for risk mitigation of your already hot wallets, which is a risk mitigation for your cold wallets.
Why do they have a fucking hard limit? Like, are they fucking they have like what 120 million at stake, and they can't afford to fucking have somebody sit there babysitting it.
The whole idea is that they don't want to do that.
This is BitGo's fucking fault, in the sense that they marketed themselves as basically security consultants, and they marketed themselves as providing the secure platform. So it was on them. They were basically posing as security consultants, and then after the fact, fucking Belsi claims, "Well, we're not security consultants. We don't provide any guarantees." So, and in that sense, that's on BitGo for being snake oil salesmen.
How fucking stupid do you get? You can't write one if statement. If withdrawal exceed fucking like whatever the fucking customer's limit is, if the withdrawals exceed this, you know, fucking play an alarm on the speakers, message me, do something, you know, just get some human eyes making sure everything's okay. I mean, come on. Fucking, you know, we talk about incompetence. I would say that is supremely incompetent. That BitGo guy, when he come on that fucking hangout, I mean, he should have been absolutely destroyed, in my opinion. And he's like, I don't like his attitude either. You know, the way he's like, no problem, no fault. Dude, the fucking people lost 120 million. You've got nothing to say about it.
Well, of course they don't want to take
wrongdoing at all.
Of course, the guy doesn't want to fucking take responsibility and admit any kind of liability. And of course, they're going to undersell the whole fact that they were presenting themselves as Bitcoin security company and all that shit. I mean, that guy definitely no chance. And he said that by the way, that they've only gained in customers. The only customer they lost was Phoenix, they said.
Yeah, what a fuck up. But think about it, they got Phoenix's money, Stamp's money, Lala's money. They got all this money. And like, where is like the oversight on it all? You know, the guy's in bed asleep while 120,000 BTC just drift off into the ether. How does that even happen?
It's supposed to be a second layer of security for your hot wallet, which you're already expecting to get hacked. You're just trying to reduce the chances of getting hacked even more, but it's still a hot wallet.
Yeah, the automated signing on the other end. I mean,
I think that his idea of the segregated wallets is cool, but it only works if the customer is controlling their own key.
Yeah, good bounce here, by the way.
Yeah, dude. I mean, fuck. This conversation's gone on so long. We're starting to bounce. Like, what? I mean, I agree with everything you guys are saying. It's just, I don't feel like, I don't know. I felt like we're going around in circles.
I'm confident that if they had a full write-up and a clear, diagram, and they made it clear that there wasn't a human in the loop, I'm pretty sure they would have gotten some criticism to that effect.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, he said that they, that change, the lack of human was made without their consent and knowledge, but...
Was it?
I mean, I don't know if it's true or not. It just,
I don't
that's
think
what he said.
That's not what I heard.
Yeah,
he said that BitGo made that change on their end, that they weren't aware of that.
But, and also, the point is, if they made that change on their end, and they weren't even aware of it, how did the hacker use it?
What was in the open source code? It's all very fucked up, and man, I mean, the fact that they've gone so long, no hack in this space has gone this long without a report. I mean, literally, no hack's gone more than a week or two without a report. I don't understand
why it takes so long. That's still going on in court.
Well, we know that there was it was transaction malleability issue, or we don't know that, but that was what was reported at least.
I thought that Shapeshift's report was pretty good.
Guys, I'm sorry, I'm jumping away here, but I'm listening to this. No, look, Bitstamp took a long time to get their post-mortem out. I mean, it took 4 to 6 months. I forget exactly. Shapeshift, they caught the guy, so that was open and shut for them, basically. Good for them. But to say that forensics that take only a couple weeks, you're completely wrong about that. It can take months and months and months.
But you don't have to wait for it to be done to come out with what information you have.
There are so many other considerations here, Jeff. I'm sorry, but there's a legal consideration. There's law enforcement considerations, ongoing investigation. There's a sticky situation between us and BitGo. There's a lot of things that have to be done and done carefully, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I wish it was different. I wish it was an open and shut thing. It just isn't. Not to mention, of course, that we need to protect our users' privacy from law enforcement. I mean, we could have just turned over all of our hard drives and everything to the FBI. I guarantee if we did that, we would have 0 customers today. because only a small fraction of our customers are U.S. customers. Okay. But we would give up all the information about everybody. No, we can't do that. And the same thing, we can't do that for Europol either. So we had to undergo this rather painful process of hiring a private firm to do the forensics. We want to make sure that the reports are complete, that they're accurate, that they're useful, informative, and and that's it. And it's not clear exactly how to do this, which is also why we brought in an outside set of eyes to help us figure out, okay, what's the proper way in which to release this information? What do we need to redact? Because we have to redact certain things because of an ongoing investigation. There's a bunch of things here. Not to mention, of course, we're really busy also trying to run an exchange. We just had the holiday period, which also kills productivity because people are taking vacation, this, that, and the other thing. We're busy trying to redeem these tokens, raise money, trying to get this business. There are a lot of things that are competing for everybody's attention. I understand people want this information. Unfortunately, I don't, people are going to get it. And I just don't think there's no tablets from the mountain coming down here, guys. It's a pretty ho-hum thing, but we have to cross T's and dot our I's in such a way that we don't create further problems for ourselves, and that you guys, the public, are going to have something that's useful and presumably satisfactory. So I just leave it at that. And the point is that these reports do take a long time. Bitstamp took a long time. I think it was like 6 months before we really got the final thing out of them, And of course, and they had the vector, right? They knew exactly how it happened, and good for them. Makes them feel. I'm sure they feel better about that. But anyway, I just wanted to correct that misconception.
Phil, can you clarify? I was confused. Was Bitfinex aware that the BitGo implementation did not have like a human there? I'm not really sure how much. What was that? Did you guys know?
We were aware that we were working with a rules engine. Okay.
Okay.
We believed that there were certain global hard limits that were immutable. At least I believed that. I was surprised that there was no global limit. That this was somehow that anything was possible through the API. That I did not understand personally. Okay,
so there was no they didn't have like a series of private keys that they had to swap in a private key every once in a while. And, I don't know.
No, their whole system's online and automated. Yeah. But they certainly now have hard stops in there where there's certain things that have to be approved out of band by humans. But we knew that we were dealing with an automated system. Is the answer? I just didn't realize how much we could do with that automated system.
So you knew you could change the rule set for a per user from the API, but you didn't know you could change it.
I didn't know to what extent we do that.
Yeah, you didn't know you could change it to unlimited.
Correct, and I didn't realize that we could do that with the global limits. It's one thing to change the limits on an account. It's another thing to change the global limits, so yeah, so that's it. Now, unfortunately, I really do have to go, guys, but I will try to check in later. Bye.
There you go.
So yeah, so the question then is, did anybody at Finex who was working on the dev, I mean, if Phil didn't know, did any of he said there's 2 people working on it, did either of them 2 know that not only could you change the rule limit for customers, because to change them from one security straitjacket to another, okay, fine, that's what we agreed about with BitGo. That's we expect this API call to be able to do that. That's fine. You kind of at that point your customers would also be under some kind of limit at least. But did anybody who was coding that know? Oh, I can also change them to rule set unlimited, global unlimited. Because if the guys on Finex didn't know that, and it wasn't that there wasn't that function call somewhere being used, then how would somebody know to call? It's like requesting an API and you don't know what the fucking parameters are.
They said it's open source. They said the feature was on the source code.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. If Phil didn't know it and the other 2 developers didn't know it, then how can it be in the source?
Anyone looking at the source code
wouldn't know.
They did know about it. They knew about the feature. The feature added a vulnerability, and that allowed them to dump everything as opposed to dump whatever the limit currently was.
Didn't know about it.
He said he didn't know to what extent. It's very political language, like that part. They knew that there was a rule set.
That's what I just
It
said.
doesn't even matter.
Of course, you know you can change the rule set because that's what you specified with them with the custom solution. So of course.
But he said they thought there was global limits, and obviously there was a vulnerability to get around the global limits. Like he abused the feature to get around a limit, and fucking it allowed him to wipe everything.
So if he didn't know you could do that, and the other two developers who were working for Finex didn't know you could do that, because otherwise, you know, if they didn't know that also, and Phil didn't know that, then basically Finex didn't know that was possible. And if Finex didn't know it was possible, then it doesn't matter if you look in the source code, because there would be no example of it being used. So you'd look at the source, you wouldn't even know it yourself. It'd be like looking at a fucking price ticker API query. You wouldn't know about all the stuff about fetching orders and updating your profile because there's no examples of it there. You wouldn't know what to call or what parameters to pass. So if Phil didn't know and the guys at Finex didn't know, therefore it's not in the source code, then, you know, how the fuck does somebody know?
I don't know. I don't think it necessarily has to be an inside thing.
What do you mean an inside thing?
I don't know. That's what you're saying, right? Like you're saying the only people who could have done this because the only people who could have known are like somebody who would have known. What do you mean?
Exactly. Use your logic. Who would have known?
Well, I mean, people hack stuff just by doing all sorts of stuff all the time.
Do you know the API calls for an unknown API?
Phil, I asked
do you know them?
Phil said that they're listed on the source code, and you can just look at them. They're in the.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If Finex doesn't know, it won't be in the fucking source code, will it?
No, he said that it is in the source code. I asked him. He said it's on GitHub. I asked him very specifically if that feature permission, the permission escalation feature, was in the source code, and he said yes, it's on GitHub. Because I want to know if that feature, which had the bug in it, was like special, like consultant code, or if that was actually on the site.
Okay, so we know that we send an API that says change user limit, change user security straitjacket level 1, level 2. Level 3, level 4. Now, if you don't know, there's a special request in there that says change user API limit global unlimited. If you don't know that there's there and you're not using it in your source code, that specific one that Phil didn't know about, the one that completely unlocked all the money, if you don't know it and you haven't used it and you haven't coded it, then how's anybody else going to know it?
Slam on it, try everything. You already got into Bitfinex. I think that was a prerequisite to do this, right? You had to already be in Bitfinex, so you're already fucking most of the way there. So just try all the things. Go look at the code, see what works.
Try all the things, guessing an API query, guessing for an API query that may or may not exist, and you have absolutely no idea what the fuck the strings might be for it. I don't know. It just seems a little bit ridiculous to me. I mean,
I've cracked software before. I've put stuff into assembly and like figured out where the thing is. Like, people, you can do it if you try.
Yeah, and I just don't think that makes any sense. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense for Finex to be unaware of an API call, which then somebody uses to drain all the funds. Finex didn't even know about it. If they didn't know about it, how does somebody else know about it?
Are you calling for an inside job, Flipper?
Well, I'm saying fucking BitGo have got a fucking lot to answer for. They didn't have any human oversight. How can they not have human oversight? That is fucking stupid. You have over $200 million sitting that is accessible online, and you can't afford to pay somebody to fucking watch it. You can't afford to pay somebody 50 grand a year to just fucking sit there and just watch that screen for stuff that starts looking freaky and call you when it does. Are you fucking kidding me? You can't put an if statement in that says, if withdrawals go fucking nuts, message me, let me know. You can't put that shit in.
But wait, if you're paying someone 50 grand a year, is that enough?
I mean, the whole idea is dumb. Like, maybe you could do it if you split it into a bunch of private keys and you had a human there feeding a new private key into it with more funds every,
They could just look at the transactions coming through in any way, couldn't they? It could just be like Finex. They could be like, here's Finex's daily withdrawal. 2,000 BTC, 3,000 BTC, 1,000 BTC. Oh, today's at 60,000 BTC. Maybe I'm just going to give them a call.
But that's still
Make sure
software.
everything's okay.
That can still be hacked. Like, the whole idea is that you can't have all your money on private keys online. Yeah, it could still
be hacked, but at least you've got a human looking at it. You're not just blindly signing. You do have some human eyes on it.
At that point, you should be using a cold wallet. At that point, you should streamline your legal process or whatever.
So not only did nobody at Finex kind of know they could execute that query, but the query was made custom for Bitfinex. So Stamp wouldn't know that you could execute that query. Nobody else that used BitGo would know you could execute that query. Finex didn't know you could execute that query. And it was made custom for Bitfinex by BitGo. So the amount of people that would know about being able to do that, you could probably count on your fucking hand. Don't you think?
I think it's on the source, the website, and anyone who really cared enough would look at it.
Where? What fucking? Where is it? Where is it? Where is that fucking command?
I don't know. According to Phil, let's go look. According to Phil, it should be on the.
Didn't someone link it above?
Fuck it. Let's go find the feature escalation thing. Oh shit! Which project is it? BitGo CLI.
But yeah, sure. So they're right. Okay, yeah, we'll make this command that completely unlocks all the money, and yeah, we'll make it documented as well. I honestly have a lot of issues with BitGo on this whole thing. I think they're massively responsible as well. Fucking Bitcoin, fucking security company, blockchain security. There was nothing. Absolutely nothing. They were just taking fucking money.
BGP said that they used the Bitfinex key to get the funds. How would BitGo, if they were the ones behind it, right? How would they have their key?
They would have to hack Bitfinex.
Right.
Well, think about it. BitGo has been working with Bitfinex for the custom implementation. They will have, at points, probably had access to Bitfinex servers to help with this integration and implementation, wouldn't they?
Maybe.
Yo, I for the life of me cannot get fucking stop orders working on OKCoin. Like my trigger's getting hit and then the order gets canceled and like I have to fucking close it out manually. So frustrating.
That's why you have to babysit them Bitcoins. It's pretty tight on 4 hour here.
Pretty soon, Coinigy will allow trading for futures on OKCoin. So maybe their features will allow for that.
Coinigy is very quiet on security. Very quiet. Yeah. In fact, Coinigy, I don't know how they fucking operate their security thing, I just have these nightmare visions in my head of a MySQL table called API keys, and it just says, you know, user ID, API key, and that's it.
Well, I mean, you can set the API keys just to do trading. Like, you can't withdraw or anything like that. It won't allow that permission.
Yeah. So if you got into Coinigy, you couldn't look at that database and go, wow, fucking hell, I've got everybody's API key. So if I execute a function that's gonna fucking market sell on these exchanges with everybody's API key, that's gonna like hugely be beneficial to me.
I never thought of it that way.
Exactly.
I found the thing. It's in the chat. I don't know. I think that's an example of how you'd find something like that.
And then so for me, the only way Coinigy would be secure is if my API keys were encrypted and decrypted client side, like blockchain, zero trust. Because otherwise, you have to trust your API keys to Coinigy, and if they're just secured by Coinigy, encrypted in the database by Coinigy, well, they still have the key to unlock them, don't they? I'm open to anybody telling me how an alternative way how that could be secure. I don't know. I would love to get Coinigy on here and ask them. Everybody should tweet them and tell them to come on. We can open the line. Yeah, we can open the line with, you know, in the wake of the you know, ever so recent Bitfinex hack, security is at the forefront of users' minds. La 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 la. I mean, a lot of people on Coinigy trade alts. You couldn't market sell an alt to fill you up on that low liquidity book, fucking down at the bottom, and then just buy it all, and then buy it back up, you know, with their API requests, fucking 200% higher.
They were just recently hacked too, right?
They were, and I asked them about their API keys. It said it wasn't that server, and they said that the API keys are stored encrypted. And I thought, yeah, but they're not client side. So if they're server side, the key to unlock them's on the server. And if the key to unlock them's on the server, what's the point in them being server side encrypted anyway? It's like BitGo. If they're just blindly signing addresses based on your security profile for that user, well, you might as well just change the security profile for the user right then and there on your own site and just fucking sign the key. Because BitGo is just blindly signing anyway, aren't they? Like BitGo didn't have a thing and said, oh, you know, like for me, if I'm doing a blockchain security company, one thing I would put into place would be like an IP range. Withdrawals from from this account, you know, are going to kind of this IP block. This one is different. Issue warning. Ask for confirmation. You know. Oh look, Bitfinex.
I'm with you, Flipper.
Yeah, look. Oh, Bitfinex's daily average withdrawal is 1,000. Therefore, anything over 2,000, you know, immediately stop withdrawal and ask for, you know, telephone confirmation from multiple partners at Bitfinex. Yeah, those kind of like basic, really simple, obvious. It's not like hindsight. Oh, we should have done that. It's like I would have thought of that from the outset. I'm securing so much money. I'd have been fucking coding nuts about security.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's not. We're not dealing with a few $100,000 here. We're dealing with millions and millions of dollars. You would you would think you would do every basis. Yeah, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Possibly
you think
even
you would cover every single base.
$500 million. Yeah, combined, maybe even $500 million.
Yeah, there's definitely some shady shit's going on.
Yeah, I mean, if you're covering that much money, how many bases do you want to cover? You want to cover every fucking base under the sun. You'd be lying there awake at night, pissing your pants, going, "But I didn't think of that. Johnny, code this shit now."
Yeah. We need answers.
That Big Go hangout, I only watched like 5 minutes. I'd turn it off. It was too loose, too friendly. It was all like laughing and joking, and I'm just like, these guys
Then you
need to
didn't
be
listen to the
drilled
whole
fucking
thing.
hard. No, I listened to like some of it, but it just wasn't strong enough.
And then you didn't listen to my part.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, man. It was. They got him pretty good, especially BTC Drac.
Yeah, just I was honestly unimpressed.
How can you,
didn't
if you
start
only
off
listen to 5
strong.
minutes, you can't tell?
Yeah, it didn't start off strong.
More
But...
5 minutes. It was a 15. Maybe.
A good question for PGP is to ask if BitGo had access to their key.
That would be so,
that would defeat the purpose, though. That would defeat
yeah,
the
but
purpose.
everything defeats the having a hot wall.
No, yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we already know that this implementation was fucking retarded, but wondering, like, did BitGo have access to the key? And,
hey, man, we needed to troubleshoot. Send it over. Just troubleshoot it. No, I can't. That's... PGP would get offended, like when I asked him, you guys understand you need a human now, right?
It's a touchy subject for him. I mean, like, fucking, it's been so long. How long are they going to keep
I understand. I understand the whole, it takes a long time. It takes a long time. I mean...
I don't.
He should be coming out and saying stuff before you get... The official report can take fucking forever, that's fine. But you have to come out and do things like this. But he's just coming to us. Like, we're just a bunch of fucking people.
Well, I wouldn't think so, Low. Yourself.
Like, I don't know, he should produce an internal interview where he answers some questions. He should have a fireside chat posted on YouTube. I don't know. Say a lot of the things he said to us, but in a more politically nuanced way. Ooh, lad. Flipper, am I right? Am I right? It's a conspiracy, guys. It was me all along. I'm sure you could find the transaction ID if you Googled it, like Bitfinex hack transaction ID. I want to get fucking BitGo in here. I want to be like, yo, bro, why are you telling people that they should take their cold wallet and put it on your hot wallet? You guys know what this thing is. You know what it's for. Why are you telling people to do this? Did you really think this was a good idea? Are you lying to me? Because you're probably lying to me. Did you seriously think that you could just lock your fucking private key in nothing? You think you could just put your key on a server on its hard drive somewhere? Yeah. Well, BRB.
Have the funds from the hack moved?
What?
The funds from the hack, have they moved?
Oh, I have no idea. BRB.
So I'd say inevitably there'll be companies that won't blacklist, and they should win out over the companies that do. But Sansi, that's not to say that people won't blacklist. It's just, there will be people that will, there will be people that won't, and I expect that the people that don't blacklist will win.
I was making coffee. Monero. It's like the ultimate tumbler. It's like super tumbler. It's a black box. Your coins go in, they go somewhere after they go in, and then they go out somewhere else. And the in and the out are the concerns, but everything that happens inside of Monero is a black box, as far as you're concerned from a security aspect, in theory. Especially now with Ring CT, there's full plausible deniability for basically all the things. BRB again, though. Alright, I'm back. And I agree that blacklisting coins is fucking. I don't like that idea. Like, who knows? And it sort of defeats the purpose of blockchain immutability and blah blah blah. And it's almost like it's an inevitable consensus issue if you think about it.
But there's no question that like Coinbase will try.
Exactly.
Blacklist them.
Any U.S. company is going to try and they'll lose.
What does that mean, lose?
Losing the market. Companies that don't have to blacklist are going to get favored over companies that do.
But they'll just like end up overseas in some other countries or something.
That makes me think
or like
that
the coins will, I mean.
Dude, you got a terrible buzz. You gotta check your buzz. That makes me think that that is a realistic issue, because like maybe like because the idea is miners could actually do shit. But with something like Monero, every transaction has plausible deniability, so you could never that could never actually be a consensus shit. Shit, I got allergies. Consensus issue, because I mean, you could never actually say this was actually the coin.
It's not in the miner's interest to do that, though.
I remember that being a real thing for Ethereum. Remember? That was a real conversation people were having about the DAO.
Yeah, well, instead of hard forking, they were talking about trying to blacklist that address, but it ended up being a vulnerability. They wouldn't be able to do it anyway, even if they wanted to. Because you could, basically they would have to do the work before they validate before they check where the transaction comes from. And so, like, it would have just been like, putting in work and then not getting paid for it, essentially.
Huh.
Like a major DDoS attack vector, like the ultimate DDoS attack vector.
Good point. Apparently, that's actually a potential flaw for Monero. It's not the whole scaling issue that people seem to think it is. The real flaw with it is that you can DOS Monero nodes by sending it chunk blocks, because it takes a rather large amount of processing power to validate whether or not that block is actually real, like a lot more than Bitcoin. Don't tell anyone that, though. It's a secret.
Well, that's pretty obvious, so I'm sure someone's going to figure that out pretty soon if they haven't already.
No, it's on the fucking... That's old-ass information. That's like on the CPU coin wiki that I read like 2 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, well, that like on the surface is pretty obvious, right? Like one of the main things people were talking about Monero was the size.
It's not the size, though. That's the thing people keep saying, though.
But that's true. I mean, its size is an issue. Each transaction is much bigger.
Eventually,
yeah.
Right
eventually,
now,
not yet.
Right now, there is an issue that you can DOS nodes relatively easily. I don't know how much in reality, like, no one's pulled it off yet, but with sending it chunk, like DDoSing it with CPU and disk load.
Is there any way to like? There's no way to like filter that out either, is there?
I mean, that's the whole thing, is that you have to, I believe you have to go back and look at so many transactions to verify a node. I've noticed it in my resource monitor when a new block comes in. Like when I saw my Bitcoin blockchain updating, fucking, it's just writing to the disk. Like it's barely reading the disk. It's barely doing anything seemingly. But when Monero fucking verifies a block, dude, it's reading like fucking like all this memory back like from the disk, and then it's also doing a bunch of CPU crunching. It's a lot more intense than just the pure writing that Bitcoin seems to do when you get a new block.
As I understand it, in the Ethereum case, hypothetically, it wouldn't have to be the case that the work would go before the check of the blacklist, but just the way that Ethereum happens to be built, from a practical standpoint, that would have been the effect. And that's why they, initially released that as a possible soft fork option, but then they had to pull it back because they couldn't, because it turned out the way that it works, that's what would have happened.
Litecoin's moving up.
Stupid Litecoin.
Hey, look at Litecoin.
Yo, Dre, man, I've had some too. There were a couple Nigerian princes that emailed me asking to like send me some money via their bank accounts, via my bank account, but it seems sketchy, so I didn't.
So you're like, nah, man, just send it over in Bitcoin.
But Bitcoin. Alright, I fucking ate some food and I feel a lot better.
I'm thinking about this fucking Finex hack after hearing what you just told us. Something sketchy with this.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know about sketchy. It's super disappointing to hear that, oh yeah, we thought it was okay to have just 2 private keys on 2 different servers, and we'll have some software, some JavaScript, some Node.js talk back and forth, and that's that's good enough for all our millions of billions of dollars.
Yeah, but how do they lose control of that key? Like that key that
happens. You have to expect, you have to prepare for that to happen. That's why people make paper wallets and shit. This is what people have been talking about since day one. This isn't a new idea, a new concept, a new thought. It doesn't, the implementation doesn't even matter. The whole idea is bad. It's bad from moment one, and the idea, BitGo is not designed to keep your it's designed for your hot wallet. It's not designed to take your cold wallet, turn it into a hot wallet, and then add it to the hot wallet. No, it's just designed for your regular fucking hot wallet, which is just a mitigation factor.
Coinrun, you having problems with the mic?
What's wrong?
You're cutting out.
Cut your cell connection sounds rough. Who should we hold more responsible at the end of this? You know, Bitfinex or BitGo?
BitGo is a company. They're a commercial service. We're upselling our product. We're going to take our existing product, tweak a couple things, use some new speak about how it's better than a cold wallet. It's up to Bitfinex to say, we've reviewed your proposal and no, or we're going to get an outside opinion. BitGo reputation should be tarnished because now they'd be considered untrustworthy. Like their idea, from my understanding from PGP saying, it makes sense. It helps reduce the risk of your existing hot wallet. That's fine.